so excited to go with all of you, each of you, to Budapest. And I've been hearing the conversations in the background. Some of you have been, for some, it's going to be your first time in Budapest. And some of you have been with us to Amsterdam and also to Paris, most recently with my health angel. And today it's Budapest. And many of you have remarked how beautiful it is, and it is. We are just really thrilled about this. So a couple of things. This is a live stream tour, which means that it is real time in Budapest. And as many of you know, because you've been on our other tours, we love getting questions. We love getting questions. So there's two ways to get questions. The first way, of course, and I'm already seeing there's a lot of conversation in Zoom chat. Please put your comments in Zoom chat. We ask that you put your mics off because otherwise it would be like chaos. So please put your mics off. We love to see comments, questions, your own experiences, et cetera, et cetera. Our guide Adam won't see it, but I'm going to be acting as your voice. I will ask your questions, and I'll also refer to you by first name unless you say, I want to be anonymous. That's never happened, but just to let you know, we do that. As Ashley said before, if you can just keep your videos off for the tour portion of it, we'll open it up afterwards, I promise. Only because sometimes we get up a glass of water and stuff like that. It gets a little distracting when we're watching the tour of Budapest itself. And I wanted to start off before we introduce Adam and we talk about it. There's some fun facts. I always start off with fun facts just to get us in the mood a little bit that you probably don't know about Budapest. First of all, did you know, I found this personally very interesting, that Budapest is the thermal bath capital of the world. That's right. So for anybody who loves spas like I do, underneath the city, it's a massive reserve of spring water that produces 70 million liters of thermal water a day, which makes Budapest the richest city with medical waters in the world. Don't know. So if you're feeling a little peckish, you might want to go there. You're not only going to find therapeutic spas in Budapest, but there are nighttime swim parties. So if anybody goes, you got to check that out. Also, it's not just for people. Guess who else is bathing in the thermal waters? Hippos. That's true. The water in the hippos pool at the very, very famous Budapest Zoo comes from one of the thermal bath springs. And so and they love it because it's very close to the Nile's waters. So they do very well in Budapest, despite the fact that, yes, it is 46 degrees and kind of cloudy right now, but the hippos are doing fine in the thermal waters. Now, what I also love is that Hungarian names are regulated by law. So some of you have seen that we go on different tours and we have all the names of our especially with Wowzitude tours and with our travel circle, we go to 72 different cities. So we have really, some difficult names sometimes are very specific, but in Hungary, they have to be regulated. So our guide today is Adam. He's going to tell you why he's known as Adam. And they are regulated by law. So you can't have any Brooklyns or Apples or kind of, new names there. It has to be agreed to. So these are kind of some of the fun facts that I learned about Budapest, none of which I knew, even though I've been to Budapest in the past. And where I already see there's some questions there. So I'm excited about Buda and Pest United. Adam's going to answer all those questions. I'm going to ask them for you. So Barbara, thank you for that question already. Adam's going to do it. And we are going to trade places with Adam. So Adam, please put your video on, and Ashley, if you would do the honors and just change us around where we are so we can see beautiful Budapest.
Is he named something else? Because I don't see him in here.
Well, you're still seeing me, and right now I think we're going to make the switch. So there we go. Well,
yeah, it's Behind Budapest is the name.
Yeah, Behind Budapest is what we want to switch.
Got it.
And there we go with Adam's thumb. Adam, welcome. And I must tell everybody here, Adam was our very, very first virtual guide. And today we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of our very first tour with Adam. We have taken dozens and dozens and dozens of tours with Adam since, but he was our first guide. So this is very special for me, as I know it will be for you. Hello, Adam.
Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for the fun facts. Indeed, my name is Adam. I'm the son of the least creative parents in the history of Hungary. When I started, to put it this way, when I was like 3 months old, and my parents were searching for a name for me. You know, as Susan mentioned, there is a pre-approved list of names in Hungary, and well, Adam was the first name on the list. And as my parents were busy doing something else, well, they picked the first available name from the list, and then they moved on to other topics, hence my name, Adam. But if you are creative enough to come up with different names, I'm very happy to listen to other names as well. And speaking of the Budapest Zoo, where those hippos so much enjoy their time, I must say that the Budapest Zoo happens to be the second oldest zoo in the world, after the one in Vienna. And well, we just celebrate the first anniversary with Vowsitude. So this is our second year that we start with Vowsitude, and I am more than happy to give you further marketing lines connected to the number 2 about the Hungarian capital city. You may guess where the oldest zoo in the world is. It's still operational, by the way. And well, it's relatively cold, so I will have to put my gloves up and down, but I guess you've seen me enough. You didn't came to see me, a local licensed guide, but you came to see my hometown. So let me switch in a way that, well, you still have my video. Hello. There is some technical, I guess.
So as Adam is getting the video on so we can see it, I'm going to also explain. There it is. I'm actually not going to explain because it's much nicer to see this. Go ahead, Adam.
So I hope you can still hear me, and now you can also see what I see. You know, the gremlins, the technical gremlins, seem to be working today as well. And so what you can see right now is the river Danube cutting the Hungarian capital city into Pest and into Buda. And Pest and Buda and the third part of Buda, Old Buda, the northern part of Buda, like Old Buda, they were merged into one in 1873. And the first joint venture was actually called Pest Buda. But then we realized that it's too tongue twisting, and it was changed to the Budapest. And when I said we, I really meant we, because apparently, according to my family legends, it was one of our relatives who figured that the name, well, Pest Buda is simply too tongue twisting. So if you consider Budapest to be still too tongue twisting, then I'm here to be blamed for not helping a single bit with the pronunciation. And well, you may have seen this image before. If you ever seen a river cruise company advertising a Danube cruise between Passau or Regensburg and Budapest, or Amsterdam and Budapest, or the Black Sea and Budapest, well, this would be the chain bridge, the iconic chain bridge, the second oldest bridge to be built on the river Danube. And behind that, that would be the House of Parliament building. The House of Parliament building that will have a lovely view towards the end of the tour, because we are heading from here towards the north. And today we can enjoy a rather beautiful day with lovely cloud cover. The furthest hill you can see to the north happens to be the bordering mountain of Hungary and Slovakia.
So Adam, this is beautiful. I know we have some tourists there in Budapest today. We're hearing a little background of their chit chat. So I know we're going to be moving away from them because there was a question about that. Somebody wondered if somebody had a TV on in the back. Nope, we're actually, as I said, this is a live tour. So we're hearing conversations of people having in all this area. And Adam, what time is it now in Budapest?
Now it's a little over 5 p.m. and I do apologize. I was boxed in by a group from Spain, and they thought it's really funny to be loud around me and to disturb my narration. Well, what can you do? As you said, it's live, unscripted tour. We may dislike them together, we may like them together, but we are all in this together. So what you can see right now happens to be the Elizabeth Bridge, followed by Liberty Bridge. That would be the green one. And on the hilltop, we have the Statue of Liberty and this rather longer concrete facility is the so-called Citadel, which was built by the Austrian army to keep an eye on the rebellious Hungarians. And as I'm circling back to our so much beloved Spanish group, behind them you can see the statue of Virgin Mary, making it obvious for everyone that the most dominant religious view in Hungary happens to be Roman Catholic. And now you have a view of the former royal palace, today's Buda Castle. And if I can get picture number 1, titled number 2 from Catherine, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. So this is how the Buda Castle, the royal palace, looked like prior to the Second World War. It was a palace that could compete with any other royal palaces in Europe, and it aimed to highlight that Hungarians are trying to get a chair at the big boys table. Thank you very much, Catherine. And well, if you compare today's version to the one that we enjoyed, that we could enjoy here in Budapest, they have hardly nothing to do in common with each other. Well, the Second World War hit the country pretty bad, especially the capital city, where 51% of all the apartments were damaged. Sorry, 51% of all the buildings were damaged, and 75% of all the apartments were damaged. But in case of the Buda Castle Hill, this ratio goes up to 85%. And very soon we'll have the view of the Buda Castle again. But as I'm walking on the narrow battlement of the Buda Castle, it's difficult to show you the building itself when there is a big crowd in front. The castle, like the entire neighborhood, suffered a lot during the war. It was bombed to the ground. It was almost entirely leveled. And it was burning for a couple of weeks before the Soviet army managed to liberate it. And once they managed to liberate the Buda Castle Hill, the Royal Palace, well, they burned everything. They set everything on fire that they could set on fire to keep themselves warm. Right across the river, a few things stand out from the general skyline. On the left-hand side, you can see the St. Stephen's Basilica's dome and 2 towers. And to the right from it, right in the middle of the screen, that would be the Budapest Eye. We thought that the London Eye is a great idea, and we thought we should introduce it in Budapest as well. Hence, the Ferris wheel, although it's smaller than the one in London, it's not right by the river, but you know, it's ours. And we Hungarians, we are known to be very proud people, and we love to introduce other cities, other nations' best practices. So once again, we have the chain bridge in sight, and we will follow our lovely Spanish group to the other viewpoint as well. And before we do so, I am more than happy to point out those sightseeing boats that usually do these 1-hour-long tours between Margaret Bridge and the Palace of Arts that actually closes down our vista on the southern end, a building that may show in different colors, as it is floodlighted, illuminated with different colors. And as I mentioned, the Margaret Island. So the closest bridge to us happens to be the Chain Bridge, the second oldest bridge to be built on the River Danube, followed by Margaret Bridge and Margaret Island. And as I mentioned, those hills happen to be the bordering mountains of Hungary and Slovakia. Susan, do we have any questions that I can attempt to answer?
Well, I know that you've been taking a sneak peek at the Zoom chat because you've been addressing them, but I will say one thing, and I do have a question to add on to Frida's question about the tourist boats. So right now we're in February, which is pretty chilly. You can see how people are dressed. It's 46 degrees. And I know with the wind chill, because we've been out at night with Adam recently, and it's been really freezing. It's too early, I think, Adam, for tourist boats like from the States, like Viking River cruises and stuff like that. Can you tell us when those tour boats
Yep.
are there, and what's high season, and do you get a lot of those?
The official kickoff meeting of Vikings local DMs is on the 10th of March. And the first boat is scheduled to arrive mid-March to Hungary. And the last Viking boat leaves the Hungarian capital city at the beginning of January. The high season in Hungary is considered to be June. Interestingly, July is the shoulder season, shoulder month, and then August and the first 2 weeks of September. Those are also the peak months for cruises. Cruise ships tend to dock actually at the international port to the south of where we are at the moment. So between Elizabeth Bridge and Liberty Bridge. At one pier during the peak season, 2 or 3 boats as well may anchor.
And also, Adam,
Yeah.
I'll just point out that one of the great things about doing a virtual tour with Adam in Budapest at this time of year is, even though we heard the Spanish group behind it before, this is teeny tiny tourism, as we can see as Adam walks up there, to what it looks like in high season. We couldn't get a view like this. We'd have to queue in line, stand in line forever, but we booked it for My Health Angel's wonderful guest today so that you can get these incredible views without the crowds.
Indeed, Susan is absolutely right. During the peak months, it would be shoulder to shoulder, armpit to armpit, fist fight for the nicest postcard angles. But since it's February and we are so brave to dare the weather, we can be here all by ourselves. And I really, really sorry for singing for you, but I was kicked out from the Hungarian talent show. So, well, you get to listen to me for a brief 7 seconds. And as I mentioned, that the Royal Palace was quite badly damaged during the Second World War. Catherine, if I could get the next photo, that would be lovely. So you can see on this photo how badly the castle was damaged, and this actually shows you wing B and wing C, those that suffered the least during the aerial bombardment and during the multiple week-long fire. Thank you very much, Catherine. The equestrial statue that you could see on the photo is the one ahead of us. And I must say that after the Second World War, the building was meant to be refurbished as the headquarters of the Hungarian Communist Party. But in 1956, after the revolution, plans changed. And according to the new plan, well, the former Royal Palace was rebuilt as a museum's quarter. And those wings that you can see to our left-hand side, those accommodate the National Gallery since 1966. And we also have the Budapest History Museum in this building, and the National Library as well, which has deep roots to this building because the library has been accommodated by the Royal Palace since the 1400s. Susan, do we have any other questions?
So there's always a question, and today we have it actually from Frida, all about the COVID restrictions. What's it like there now in Budapest? We noticed you're not wearing a mask. What's going on there now?
Well, Hungary is the country of no common sense when it comes to COVID restrictions, and you may want to add the fact that Hungarians are also known as the country of having the of practicing sarcasm and irony 24/7. We have to wear masks when we use mass transit vehicles. We have to wear masks as soon as we are indoors, and we have to wear masks also in restaurants, cafes, and so on, as soon as we stand up from a table. So let's say, should we go to a restroom in a cafe, then mask on. But as soon as we sit down to enjoy our coffee, we don't have to wear a mask. Otherwise, the vaccination ID as of from March will only be valid once we have 3 jabs in our system. So with 2, it won't work at all. But honestly, the vaccination cards are not very well checked across the country. Only if you go to museums or to some state institutions, they check the validity. But when it comes to mass transit vehicles, not so much. And in the meantime, I'm showing you the equestrian statue of Prince Eugene of Savoy. He was the one who liberated Hungary from the Ottoman Turks in 1686, and his campaign continued towards the Balkans, and he liberated, well, a great chunk of the Balkans as well from the Ottoman Turks. This statue itself was meant for the city of Zenta, but when it was ready, well, it turned out that this small village-sized settlement in Serbia is not able to buy the artwork that they've ordered. So the artwork found itself on the art market. And at that time, actually, the Royal Palace was going through its massive upgrade. And the head architect of the upgrade convinced the emperor and the king of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy that actually ceased to exist in 1918, that the statue would look great in front of the Royal Palace facing east, the general direction that Prince Eugene of Savoy liberated from the Ottoman Turks. And as we are going through a tunnel to get to the western side of the Buda Castle complex, Susan, if we have any other questions,
We
I am more than
actually
happy to
do
attend.
indeed. We have 2 questions here, and I have a comment too. Armand is asking what food specialties are there. Armand, you are a man after my own heart, because that's always my first question. And I will tell you that in the tour documents that My Health Angel is distributing, we have a delicious recipe for chicken paprikash, which is very, very, very renowned there. But Adam, tell us some of the other food specialties as well.
Well, it's absolutely lovely to talk about food, since breakfast was a long, long time ago. Anything that is unhealthy. Basically, this is the best way I can summarize you the Hungarian cuisine. One of my favorite is actually a potato lasagna, or layered potato. You basically boil water and you cook potato for a short while. It becomes quite soft, and then you slice it up and you put it in a huge pot, and like a layer of potato followed by a layer of sausage, potato, sour cream, potato, cheese, potato, sausage, potato, sour cream, potato, cheese, and so on and so forth, depending how deep this pot is. on the top some smoked cheese, and then you bake it, I believe, for 30 to 45 minutes. It's absolutely tasteful. It's very hearty. Just make sure you don't tell your doctor that you had it, because it won't look good on your charts. The other thing that I really fancy, and it's seasonal during the months of August and September, is the Hungarian ratatouille, as we call it lecho. It's made of bell pepper and tomato, and we cook it on a slow fire. Let's say with on onion and on garlic, and we may add sausage to it, we may add bacon to it, but normally it is made in a huge iron cast pot, and if it's possible, then we make it actually in the garden, and open fire, and it comes with a special iron pot, which edge is actually a little bit bending towards the outside, so nothing would burn down on the bottom of the pot. So this would be the western side of the former royal palace. The first and the second floor was the ballroom. The ballroom, which was 1,400 square feet large or small, depending how you would like to put it. But for us, it was quite humongous. Wait a second. No, it was 7,000 square feet. Sorry, my math skills at this time of the day are quite limited. And it was quite humongous for us, and it greatly represented the wealth of the Hungarian nation and our development, to put it this way. We were trying to claim a chair at the big boys table with this ballroom. We have a bunch of statues on the top. Those are like, how to put it, like gods from the Roman mythology, gods of sciences and other trades. And this courtyard was recently fixed up, and we also we rebuilt the formal garrison, the garrison of the royal bodyguards. And this building, the bodyguards here, were not to bodyguard, actually not to protect the emperor and the king, Francis Joseph or Karl IV, but they were to guard the Holy Crown. The Holy Crown that actually were accommodated in this neck of the royal palace. We had a special armed force guarding our royal jewelries. Susan?
So a couple of
Any
questions. A couple of questions. First of all, we wanted to know, and you've answered a lot of them, but Sue wanted to know how long the Hungarian monarchy was in place and what took place after that time. And then I know that later on in the tour, when we get to the neighborhood, we're going to be addressing the ethnicities and backgrounds, including the very rich Jewish history of Budapest, which Donna has asked. So wait for it, Donna. We'll get to that when we get into the neighborhood. But right now, if you could just talk about the monarchy and what happened to it.
Sure. Thank you very much for the question. So the monarchy was born actually in 1867. It replaced the Habsburg Empire, where Hungarians were looked absolutely down upon. So we have a very significant minority complex and inferiority complex, driven, dating back to the time when the Austrians believed that we are tertiary to them. And the Austro-Hungarian monarchy for us meant a chance to prove ourselves. It opened doors and, well, as we like to put it, doors and windows for the Hungarian nation. And that's why the royal palace as well got a facelift. And that's why I am referring to the big boys table, and that's why I'm referring to the fact that we were trying to prove ourselves that we worth more than a dime. The Austro-Hungarian monarchy was dismantled into pieces in 1918 following the First World War, where the monarchy picked the wrong side, which is standard Hungarian practice. And as part of the peace treaty after that closed down the First World War, well, we had to decrown the Habsburg royal family, and the monarchy ceased to exist. But it only ceased to exist during the 1920s. So there were a lot of jokes about Hungary during the 20s among the Allied states, that Hungary is a monarchy, a kingdom without a king, run by an admiral without a navy. Well, let's put it this way, for the proud Hungarian soul, it didn't go very well, but it was absolutely understandable. And I really hope you fancy today's beautiful clouds right above the Royal Palace. We are quite gifted today by the weather conditions and by the sky. And to answer the question, what followed the monarchy? Well, it was a Soviet republic for a short while, for 133 days. And that was replaced by a republic that ceased to exist when the Hungarian Communist Party took over Hungary in 1949. And you may wonder when we did the political transition. Well, the transition started during the 1980s, and there were significant moments in 1989, in 1990, when we had the first free elections, and in 1991, when the last Russian troops left the country. And in the meantime, you could see the rebuilt royal royal riding hall. This was the garrison, the Buda Castle's Christina Town wing, named after famous princess. And since the lights were finally turned on, we will return to this viewpoint because it looks absolutely marvelous when it is illuminated. And then we are going to head to the north.
So you did that just for us, right, Adam? You turned on all the lights. So.
Yeah, I stepped on the switch a little while ago, but apparently something went wrong, and they didn't sense me giving them a sign that, look, we are here. I have important people to show around, so, why don't you?
So Adam, what are these buildings? I know that they were built for royalty and built to kind of show the big boy table, love that phrase, but what are they used for today?
The Royal Riding Hall that occupies the middle of our frame is an event hall for conferences, weddings, corporate events. Like I said, the Buda Castle accommodates 2 museums and a library. And well, the rest of the close proximity of where we are standing is nothing else but a construction site. And we will head to the north from here. I know that the 40 feet containers are not necessarily the nicest sites, but as a living organism, the Buda Castle is constantly being rebuilt. And right now, this construction site, we are rebuilding the lost Archduke Joseph Palace. And I can still show you some of the walls of the former Royal Horse Depot that used to stand here, and it might or might not be rebuilt in the next couple of years. But I'm very happy that I can show it to you, because most likely by the time you pay a visit, an in-person visit to Budapest, these walls would not be here. And this would be the northern tip of the former Royal Palace. This was once actually the entrance, the ceremonial entrance to the palace itself. The entrance was like right here. And for entering the castle here, the royal palace here, one was led to the ballroom pretty much like immediately. And we have to wait because although this is a pedestrian zone, well, as Hungary is the country of no common sense, there are also cars on the sidewalks. Not just our pandemic restrictions lack any connections with common sense, but also our sidewalks. So while I'm having my well-deserved laugh about cars using the sidewalks, Susan, any questions I may answer?
So right now in this area, and I know we're going to get into a neighborhood area as well, the buildings that we're looking at now that are now beautifully illuminated, who's housing, who is there now? And Frida's also asking, same as me, is it open to the public and can anyone visit these buildings at any time?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so open to the public that an hour ago when I came up to the Castle Hill, this road, which is actually the, back in the 1200s, it was referred to as the Jewish Street, because this was the first Jewish quarter of Hungary. It was just open to the general public. And like I said, an hour ago, it was closed down. And this building here was, well, built by the Alexander family in 1806. And currently, it is the Hungarian presidential palace. So this is where the Hungarian president works from 9 to 5. And well, right next to this building, we have the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister's office was the former Carmelita monastery. If you compare the Prime Minister's office that you can see right now to the presidential palace, the difference of the president and the Prime Minister's political power is quite clear. The Hungarian president has hardly no political power. He's sort of like a figurehead in Hungary, while the Hungarian Prime Minister has all the control over the steering wheel. What is interesting to know that the former Carmelita monastery was the first theater of Hungary, where even Beethoven had a show, a single show. But we are so proud that Beethoven, such a famous composer, made it to Hungary, that we have a marble board commemorating that concert.
So I'm going
Once
to
again,
ask this question because these are incredible views, by the way. This is a very special time of day. Even in the cloud, this is called the blue hour. So it only happens for a half hour every day. So fantastic that we're doing it with My Health Angel. So this is great. But I do have a question about security. It comes up at all the tours, so I will just bring this up. How is it that you can go almost right up to the front door of both the president and the prime minister? And you know, who's watching the security here? It looks pretty empty.
well, the presidential office has 2 guards outside, and basically that's it. They may have 1 or 2 guards, inside as well, but we don't really care about them. The president itself is a figurehead, so no political power, hence no protection for the president either. The presidential motorcade, unlike the US, president's motorcade consists of 2 cars, presidential car and the getaway car. The prime minister's security needs, and I may have to apologize, but I stumbled upon the road, which although the neighborhood is open to the public, the road isn't. So I am walking here in the gray zone, if you wish. Apparently I couldn't focus. So anyway, the prime minister has a little bit more privacy. It's significantly more difficult to approach the prime minister's office compared to the presidential office. But the prime minister's motorcade also consists of 2 cars, a getaway car and the prime minister's actual car. So we are quite relaxed. The city and the country is quite safe. still, regardless of what's going on in the neighboring country. Um, and generally speaking, one should not be afraid walking alone on the streets of Budapest, even during the hours of darkness. And as you've mentioned, Susan, before, we are just entering the residential part of the Buda Castle Hill. The residential part, which found itself on the northern tip of the Buda Castle Hill as of from the 1300s. And this is a rather small neighborhood of Budapest, which features 204 neighborhoods organized in 23 districts, featuring 24 mayors. We love red tape, people. If you think that you know what red tape is, if you come to Budapest, we can redefine red tape for you. And this neighborhood, the Buda Castle Quarter, is a very small, intimate neighborhood which is separated from the rest of the city by elevation and even by a wall as well, which lost its defense function during the late 1800s. So those who live here, they consider themselves villagers, like trapped in a metropolis of the population of 1.9 million people. But those who live here, they tend to know each other. They tend to pay a visit to each other. So for them, these doors are open. And all these houses feature a inner courtyard with a table, with multiple chairs. And just like in the old world, information is being exchanged in these courtyards, gossips, news, and so on and so forth. So it's the gardens here, the courtyards here are like the old world's server centers. Susan, can I answer other questions?
Oh,
We
yes, we
new
have questions. We have questions. So,
Lovely, superb.
yeah, so first of all, now that we're in the neighborhoods, and you mentioned a couple of things. First of all, that so much of this was rebuilt after World War II because it had so much damage created to it. So perhaps you can talk about that. But also, as you talk about the rebuilding and how much of it was rebuilt here, if you can also talk about just in general, Budapest prior to the war, Budapest after the war, in terms of the population, in terms of both Catholics and Jews, and what's happened with all that, because there has been a number of questions about that as well.
Absolutely, thank you. And generally speaking, thank you very much for all the questions. It's such a lovely thing to show around, such an interesting and interactive and active group. So absolutely fantastic. That's the easiest way to put a smile on a local guide's face. So in terms of the architecture, 31 sieges took place in the Buda Castle. The last was the Second World War, where 75% of the apartments were damaged and the houses were damaged. And during the 1960s, what happened is that architects figured out that they should do a wall research to figure out which was the most dominant architectural style of the past. So they would put that architectural style in the spotlight during the historical preservation and restoration works. The wall research means that architects try to strip down the torsos, like they peeled off as many layers of plaster as possible to see what's beneath. And in this building's case, they find a partial window frame from the 1500s right next to a window frame that is still used today. And the concept of the historical restoration here is that if there is something older than the late 1700s and the 1800s, then they also show those elements on the facade. And if you fancy how this neighborhood was rebuilt, then I must tell you, because, well, I'm a proud Hungarian. I'm not just proud of my own nation, but I'm also proud of my family, that the master plan of the historical restoration was delivered by my family. And then the individual designs being delivered by individual architects, but the master plan was my family's design. And well, prior to the destructions of the Second World War, well, Budapest was a absolutely metropolis, a cosmopolitan metropolis, where hardly no questions were asked. Well, we are talking till the 1920s, a fast developing cosmopolitan city. And our nickname actually in Vienna was Budapest, because 1/4 of the city's population was Jewish. 1/4 of this 1.1, 1.2 million big city. The current population of Budapest is 1.9 million, because after the Second World War in 1949, well, the city was extended and the neighboring villages being merged into the Hungarian capital city to increase its size and to increase its population as well. And right now you can see that the neighborhood is so quiet that I can easily walk in the middle of the street for the next 5 seconds because the car is coming, ruining my whole concept. But this is a live unscripted tour.
Now, we want you to be safe. And I just want to also add a couple of things about Adam in particular. We are so thrilled. I mean, my master's degree is in architecture, so we've gone on and on about architecture. We can do hours of this. Adam is so knowledgeable, especially since that is, in fact, the family business. So thank you to those people who like the reconstruction, because that is his family. And secondly, Adam does a full 4-part series of Jewish Budapest, so he could wax poetic about all that in detail. We've got limited time on this particular tour, but Adam is very knowledgeable, and we actually do these tours for different Jewish groups as well. So, but perhaps you could tell us just a little bit more about the makeup of, I know it was 1/4 Jewish before the war, but what's the makeup now? How has that changed? And of course,
Yep.
We know what happened, but perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about what
Sure.
happened during the war.
Well, prior to the, well, let me put it this way. In 1941, there were 231,000 Jewish people in Budapest. They were not all Hungarians, they were not all locals, because as of from 1939, well, the borders of Hungary were open, just like now, and whoever's life was in danger could flee to Hungary. That also included Jewish people from Poland. It also included parts of the Polish army that could retreat in an organized fashion to Hungary. And it also meant that Jews from today's Romania and today's Ukraine could flee to Hungary without any troubles at the border. Unfortunately, in 1941, 18,000 people were transported to the borders of today's Poland and Ukraine, to Kamianetsk-Podolsk, where the first mass murder took place. Absolutely not something we are proud about. I like to forget about the fact that the Hungarian army was involved in this mass murder. We try to use our short memory to whitewash ourselves a little bit, but I personally don't fancy that. And until 1944, the 19th of March, the lives of those Jewish people who lived in Hungary, who fled to Hungary, were not threatened. Their life was not threatened. I'm not talking about fundamental rights, because those were absolutely limited by the year of 1944 by introducing anti-Semitic bills in like multiple ways. As of from the 19th of March 1944, the deportations started, and till D-Day, well, Hungary lost a good 460,000 Jewish people from the Hungarian countryside. That's more than 90% of the Jewish community who once lived in the Hungarian countryside. It wouldn't be possible without the assistance of the Hungarian authorities and the Hungarian people in the countryside. So once again, we should not whitewash ourselves. We did commit crimes. We shall not forget about those crimes that we've committed. Deportation started between D-Day and the 15th of October 1944. On the 15th of October, we tried to switch sides again, just like before the 19th of March 1944. Our second attempt as well failed. And the focus of the Hungarian Nazi Party shifted to Budapest, where at that point, 200,000 people, 200,000 Jewish people tried to survive the Holocaust and the war. Half of them survived the Second World War. A lot of them left the country between 1949 and 1952 when they got passports from the communist regime, and those passports were understood as like one-way passports. We give you a passport and we don't expect you to return with these passports. After 1990, when the Hungarian state started to compensate the victims of the Holocaust and the victims of communism, many families who defected, who left to the US, to Israel, to whatever country, Brazil, they returned because of this compensation. You may wonder about whether if anti-Semitism is an issue in Hungary at the moment. Officially, it is absolutely not tolerated at all. Denying Holocaust may result a couple of years serving in prison. I believe a single Facebook comment resulted 3 years in prison for a lady a couple of years ago. So we are absolutely serious on that. However, anti-Semitism within four walls is quite common these days as well. Nothing that makes me particularly proud. This is once again depending on the social group. This is either accepted or this is absolutely not tolerated.
So thank you, and I just want to share some comments. Your honesty is very much appreciated. We know it's a very sensitive topic, and especially, you know, we will have some other sensitivities given the current situation today, and we know and appreciate how difficult it is for places such as Budapest. But going back to current day and what we're currently showing, because lots of people are commenting about this fabulous church, and I really want everyone to hear about this because this is so amazing. So we'll go to what we're looking at now, and we'll shift a little bit
Sure.
into this. Thanks, Al.
Yeah, shifting back. So this would be the Matthias Church, also known as the Coronation Church, also known as the Church of Our Lady. The last two coronation ceremonies of Hungary took place here in 1867, when Francis Joseph and Queen Elizabeth were crowned in the previous church that stood here. So, Catherine, if you could give me the third photo, titled with number 4. So this is how the previous church looked like here. You can see that this version and today's version has hardly nothing to do in common. This is the version where Francis Joseph and Queen Elizabeth were crowned. Thank you very much, Catherine. And Francis Joseph, after the coronation ceremony, said that, look, the previous church is just not beautiful enough to organize their coronation ceremonies, so a facelift is required. Well, the facelift was designed by Friedrich Schulek, and he got all the time he needed. He could spend actually 10 years just with the research, and he figured out that the roots of the church point back to the Gothic times. So he used Gothic revival or neo-Gothic as the most dominant style of the new version. And he also seasoned it with Hungarian ornaments. We are absolutely proud of his work that took altogether 20 years, 10 years for the research, 10 years for the construction itself. Like I said, it runs under 3 names: Matthias Church, Coronation Church, and Church of Our Lady. And even today, this is an active church. The Mass of today's Mass will soon finish. It normally starts at 5:30 p.m. Central European Standard Time. Sundays, they have multiple Masses here, either with guitar music or with organ music. But it's quite popular and well attended Masses, to be honest, with all of you. Churches, generally speaking, had a great significance in our life prior to the Second World War. They lost quite a lot of influence and quite a lot of power during the time of socialism and communism, when it was, although not punished by jail sentence, to go to practice, but there were soft punishments introduced, and those prevented many families to be active of any religious group. So this would be, once again, the Matthias Church, designed by Frigyes Schulek, and the same architect is also responsible for the Fisherman's Bastion that provides an amazing frame to the church itself. The Fisherman's Bastion itself as well was designed by Frigyes Schulek. He wanted to make sure that his masterpiece, the church, will never be ruined by any untalented architects. So that's why he designed a frame as well around that we call now the Fisherman's Bastion. And I will climb up to the upper floor to provide you a great view of the church as well, and of my hometown too. Susan, in the meantime.
So how fabulous that we were able to see your hometown Budapest from day into night, including the Blue Hour, which is what it's called. Very rare that we get to see the Blue Hour. We have to time it perfectly well to get these views. So Adam, amazing. And I think the question also, there's some questions with the church as well. How many, you may have mentioned this, but how many does it seat now? And, you know, it is, I know it's used frequently, but how many does it hold?
It holds about 650 people. It fills up when it gets to concerts. It fills up when we have choir concerts here. And let me know if you can hear the bells of the Matthias Church.
We can.
In that case, I will keep quiet for a little bit, because these are the most famous bells of Hungary.
So Adam, as we appreciate the bells
Yeah,
that
sure.
seem to go on. No, it's wonderful. We're all loving it. Just a couple of questions as we say goodbye to your beautiful city. I know that you want to give us our last wow moment. I hope everybody is around for that because you're going to pivot around because I know Adam's thing. And wait till you see what he's going to show us. So Adam, over to you.
So this would be the House of Parliament building right across the river Danube, one of the 100 wonders of the modern world. And during this time of the day, it is just fabulous. Surrounded with this blue sky reflecting in the Danube, which at this time around looks as blue as the blue Danube walls. And today, not just the House of Parliament building, the second largest parliament building in Europe, is surrounded with blue lights, but even the fisherman's bastion to show support, to reflect to what is happening in the world today. The House of Parliament, as I mentioned, is the second largest parliament building in Europe, the third largest in the world. It doesn't really work for us that it's the third largest in the world or the second biggest one in Europe. So we'd rather say it is the largest one in continental Europe, and that sounds the best for us. And well, this is basically where we can open up for questions, I believe.
Yeah, so this is a special tour that My Health Angel has really designed with us here at Wowzitude. We love working with My Health Angel and with everyone there, Nicole and Ashley and the whole team. So at this point, you are invited to open up your videos if you want. As we're looking at this, open up your mics and ask Adam anything you'd like directly.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Adam showed a statue of the Savoy family, and I'm wondering, is this the Savoy family that owned the Shroud of Turin?
Most likely. I'm not quite sure about the entire Savoy family's real estate portfolio. I know that the gentleman who liberated Hungary from the Ottoman Turks was the one who liberated Vienna as well from the Ottoman Turks. And in Vienna, he owned the Palace of Belvedere, which is today known as a absolutely fantastic museum.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else?
I will say, Adam, that, oh, we've got hands up, Marion and Sandy.
Yeah, Marion, if you want to go ahead and unmute, we'll start with you and then we'll go over to Sandy.
Yes, I was just wanting to know, is that parliament the British parliament?
This would be the parliament. So the second largest parliament building in the world is the one in London. And our parliament building was actually using the Westminster as a role model. So there is quite a bit of similarity between the one in London and between ours.
Perfect. And then Sandy, if you want, oh yeah, I see you're unmuted. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. Adam, last time I was in Budapest, I heard some interesting conflicts with the political situation there. What is your sense? If you'd rather not, I understand.
I am thinking about how I could make things diplomatic.
Yeah, I'll just jump in just a second. As everybody knows, the situation is very tenuous. One of the things that we do at Wowzitude, and also, you know, in respect and protection of our guides, is we go to places that have challenges. Never have we been more challenged of late than we are now. It's a fluid situation. And as you can appreciate, it's challenging. So I hope you'll understand that I purposely avoided conversation about what's going on now in this tour. It is a beautiful city, Budapest. I want everyone, I think we've all seen today how incredibly gorgeous it is in this live tour. And we try to studiously avoid discussion of current politics as things can get a little, as you can imagine, there's a lot of controversy around it. So I hope you can appreciate that as I jump in on that. But any questions about non-political, we'll put it this way, of today's politics, fluid, we welcome those questions.
And I see Rose has your hand up. Rose, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, what is the cost of living there in Budapest versus years ago?
It increased significantly. Just last year, the inflation was around 20%.
Wow.
Of course, this is not the official data because the energy prices were kept on a flat rate base, which adds a lot to the consumer basket based on which inflation is counted. I can tell that those things that I buy, their prices were increased minimum by 20%, maximum by 100%. So prices doubled. The living quality has decreased quite a bit, as we are also at the, well, let's put it this way, at the decreasing edge of the pandemic. It is much more expensive to live now in Budapest than it was a couple of years ago. And the scissor also opened quite a bit between those who can afford more and between those who cannot afford almost anything. So there is a fast rising number of poor, and poverty is a key question now in Hungary.
And I think we have time for 2 more questions, and then we're going to have to let Adam go, as sad as I am to let him go. I love talking to Adam. We talk all the time. So I'm very lucky. By the way, Adam is just a great person. I could wax poetic about how great he is, but then I would embarrass him, which I love to do. Anyway, I think Marna and John have questions. They have their hands up. So unmute yourself, John, if you'd like to go first.
Yep, John, if you would like to unmute. There you go.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Adam, I don't know if you have any awareness of this, but there was a new broadcast television series initiated in September here in the United States about the FBI International. And the reason I'm mentioning it is that their hub is at least fictionally in Budapest, and
oh yeah,
it's interesting open window to your country.
Yeah, I'm absolutely aware of it. Where I was raised as a child shares a fence with this FBI facility. It was always a police garrison. FBI took it over a couple of years ago, and it's a training center, as you said, ever since. It's quite, I know it, and should I know about it, then everyone else knows about it. So there is zero secrecy about having an FBI department here or an FBI training facility here. But
so
yeah.
thanks for confirming. I thought it might have been just a fictional thing.
No.
So it was a real thing.
Is Böszörményi Street 19, I believe, because it's right next to the municipality, and the municipality is 21. So yeah, well, it's, I know the address. So
well, thank you for the further information, because now I have more interest in it, because it is something that is real.
Yeah, it's real. It's absolutely real. I can confirm that. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for the tour. It's great.
Yeah. Yes, hi. Adam, I was just wondering, I was in Budapest in 2019, and I know when I went, I was on a river cruise with Avalon, but I went to see with some of the artists' museums, and I noticed, why do Hungarians use last name first?
Because we are cute and weird. That's the main slogan in Hungary. We don't do common sense. You're absolutely right. We do it mixed up. Last name comes first and first name comes last, because, well, we are the Hungarians, and we think it's cuter not to do common sense because it's too standard otherwise. We originate from Asia, where standards were different. So you were actually recognized by your tribe, by your family. Hence, first name comes first, last name comes first. If you look at some other Asian nations like Japanese also do the same. And for this reason, we thought that we and the Empire of Japan are related. When we were, trying to find out our roots, where Hungarians are coming from, who we are related to. But obviously, we have no links to Japanese people other than the usual links that a nation has now to Japan.
Interesting. One quick question. The shoe museum on the other side, the shoe memorial, when was that put up?
2005.
Oh,
2005, a German sculptor. And for those who don't know what we are talking about, there are 120 shoes, 60 pairs of shoes right by the river in between the chain bridge. No, comply, I say. No, there we go. So the shoes memorial is right in between the House of Parliament building and the chain bridge, like halfway, dead across the river from where we are standing. 60 pairs of shoes, and an exact execution point where communist members of the resistance and Jews been executed by the Arrow Cross Party's armed militia. I would like to pinpoint that it was the armed militia that executed people there, and there were further execution points to the north from Margaret Bridge, this general direction.
Thank you.
So I want to thank everyone today. I'll echo what Adam said earlier. There is nothing that makes us, and particularly our guides, happier than the engagement of groups such as yours. You are a fantastic group, I have to say. Your questions are thoughtful and intelligent, and we all appreciate it. Again, our guides love it. We started this because, quite frankly, with the pandemic, our guides could not see people in person. So Wowzitude started as, many of you know, I've been in the industry many years, many decades in the travel industry, and we started it so that people could still enjoy all the amazing cities such as Budapest in the world, and that we could work with our guides so they can do what they do best. We only work with licensed guides such as Adam, and we are very fortunate that through our vetting, we do, I believe, have the best guides in the world. We certainly have the best one in Budapest today. So Adam, thank you for a great tour. You can hopefully read all the kudos in Zoom chat as well, and the clapping that you're getting also. We love it. Stay safe, stay warm. Our hearts are with you. And we really thank you so much for this tour. Take care.